Right now, you are probably the most qualified person in the room, and the least likely to bring it up. My name is Frank. I observe things for a living, and what I've been observing lately is you. Specifically, what your life looks like right now, in 2026, at somewhere between 45 and 60 years old. The jobs you're working, the things you're carrying, and the stuff you've quietly shelved for later that honestly deserves a better slot on the calendar. This is not going to be a sad story about how hard things are. You have heard that. You don't need it. What I'm going to do is show you a picture of what your generation actually looks like right now. Because most people, including a lot of researchers, keep getting it wrong. You went to work one day, and at some point you became the person everyone comes to when something goes wrong. Not because you asked for the job, not because someone handed you a title that said person who fixes things. It just happened. Because you were there, and you knew what to do. According to a large workforce study done in 2025, 2/3 of Gen X workers have had a job where their direct manager was younger than them. 2/3. That means for most of you, this is not a new thing. You have been taking direction from people younger than you for years. And here is the interesting part. Not the frustrating part, the actually interesting part. You are still there. You have not rage quit or posted a long note on LinkedIn about finding your true path or declared that you are leaving to go make organic soap in Vermont. You are still showing up, and showing up, and showing up. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, Gen X workers in their late 40s and 50s currently have a median job tenure of 7 to 10 years. The generation below you, just over 1 year in their early career. You are not the generation that bails. Now, the reason this matters is not to make you feel superior, though feel free. The reason it matters is because this habit of staying, getting through the rough patch, figuring it out on the way, that is something nobody around you actually taught you. You arrived at it yourself. This same research describes your generation's strength at work in a very specific way. It says, crisis management experience from navigating multiple economic cycles, technology transitions, and industry disruptions. In regular words, you have seen everything fall apart at least twice, and you still know where the fire extinguisher is. But here's something nobody is writing headlines about. A growing number of you are now being managed by people who have been working for 3 or 4 years total. And what the research shows is that managing up, handling a boss who is younger and less experienced, is something your generation does quietly, without drama, and without anyone thanking you for it. You correct the course. You patch the gaps. You are the institutional memory of places that don't even know what institutional memory means yet. Which raises a question. If this is what you're doing all day, what are you actually getting back? Let's talk about what Tuesday actually looks like for a lot of you. Your kid needs a form signed. Your parent needs a ride to a doctor's appointment. Your boss needs the report that was due yesterday. Your spouse needs to know what's for dinner. And somewhere in that exact same moment, you also need to just sit down for 5 minutes and eat something. This situation has a name. Researchers call it the sandwich generation. You are in the middle. Aging parents on one side, kids who still need things on the other. Research from 2025 shows more than half of Americans in their 40s right now are dealing with exactly this: a parent over 65 and a child who still depends on them. And here is the number that gets me. The average person in this situation spends over $10,000 of their own money every year covering both sides. That is separate from their mortgage, separate from groceries. That is just the cost of being the person holding the whole thing together. Now, and this is the part you might not expect, research also shows that 49% of the people in this exact situation report being very satisfied with their family life. Not just okay with it, actually satisfied. Think about that. You are financially stretched in 2 directions, running on less sleep than you would like, managing more logistics than a small airline, and nearly half of you look at your life and say, yeah, this is actually good. That is not a normal finding. That is a Gen X finding. You find meaning in the exact things that are pressing on you. You always have. When things got hard, you did not wait for someone to come make it easier. You made it mean something instead. That is a strange skill. It is also probably the most underrated skill on the planet right now. This is how much money the average person in your generation thinks they are going to need to retire comfortably. $1,111,747. You probably have not done the math out loud, but somewhere in the back of your brain there's a number, and that number keeps getting bigger every time you fill up your tank. The average Gen X person actually expects to have $711,771 by the time they stop working. That gap between those two numbers is $404,976, almost $500,000 short. And the research is clear, this is the largest retirement gap of any generation right now, bigger than boomers, bigger than millennials. Before you shut this off, there is something the retirement crisis headlines always skip, and it is important. You are the most likely generation to be high earners right now. The average net worth for a Gen X person in their late 40s is $247,000. For people in their late 50s, it's $364,000. And 73% of Gen X households own their home. That's real money sitting in bricks that nobody's counting in the scary headlines. The gap is real, and the capability is also real. Both things are true at the same time. The issue is not that you failed to plan. The issue is that the rules changed while you were in the middle of the game. Your parents' generation had pensions, money that showed up every month no matter what the stock market did. By the time you got into the workforce, those were mostly gone, replaced by a system where you were supposed to pick your own investments, fund your own future, and somehow do all of this correctly while also paying for the house, the kids, and your parents' prescriptions. Nobody handed you the instruction manual for that, same as everything else in your life. And same as everything else in your life, you figured it out anyway. All right, enough about obligations. Let's talk about the stuff you actually like. Research consistently shows that your generation defines itself through what it does when it's off the clock. Not the job title, not the LinkedIn profile. The thing you do on Saturday morning when nobody needs anything. That is how Gen X actually describes itself when someone asks who you are. And the data on what Gen X wants to do, given actual time and actual money, is genuinely surprising. In a major international bucket list survey done in 2024, Gen X ranked #1 out of every generation for wanting to hike Kilimanjaro. Not teenagers trying to prove something, not retirees looking for a challenge. You, the generation that has a full-time job, 2 aging parents, and a mortgage. 34% of Gen X also put the Galapagos Islands in their top 3 must-do experiences. That ranked higher than any other age group. You are not quietly aging into golf packages and buffet cruises. You are looking at things that involve hiking in the jungle and staring at ancient tortoises and thinking, yes, that is the one. The travel research says 84% of Gen X want to try something completely new on their next vacation. 84%. And 68% say the main reason they travel is just to stop for a minute. Not to see the sights, not to check something off a list, to actually breathe. Because here is what your schedule does not have in it. Unstructured time. You run from the work thing to the parent thing to the kid thing to the errand to the meeting that should have been an email, and somewhere in that schedule there's a drawer, and in that drawer is a list. And on that list is Kilimanjaro and the Galapagos and that week in Portugal you keep saying you will do when things calm down. Things are not going to calm down on their own. You know this. That drawer is not going to open itself. The research on your generation also shows something interesting about hobbies specifically. 70% of Gen X list museums, historical sites, and arts and culture as things they actively enjoy. Not things they think they should enjoy. Things they actually go out of their way to find when they travel. You grew up before the internet turned every piece of information into a soundbite. You actually read things, watched full documentaries, sat with a topic long enough to understand it. That habit is still there. You did not lose it. You just ran out of time for it. And this is the thing about Gen X that the generational conversation keeps missing. You were never the generation that confused being busy with being important. You always knew the difference. Work was the thing you did to fund the life you actually wanted to live. That was a choice, a conscious one, and it still holds. There is a version of the Gen X story that starts with forgotten generation and ends with retirement crisis. And somewhere in the middle you fall asleep because it sounds like someone reading a Wikipedia article about a problem nobody is fixing. That is not what I observed. What I observed is a generation that grew up without a safety net and built one anyway, that entered a workforce with no rulebook and became the rulebook for everyone below them, that is simultaneously managing their parents' health and their kids' futures and their own retirement math, and somehow still has Kilimanjaro on the list. You are not waiting to be recognized. You never were. You built a whole identity around not needing the gold star, around just doing the thing and knowing you did it. That instinct, the one that says, "I do not require applause to continue functioning," that is not cynicism. That is a skill set. And right now, in 2025, that skill set is probably worth more than it has ever been, because the world keeps shifting in ways nobody prepared for, and the people who survive that kind of shift are not the ones who waited for instructions. They are the ones who already knew how to read the room, adjust the plan, and keep moving. That drawer with the list in it, the week in Portugal, the hike, the week where nobody needs anything and you just go somewhere interesting and look at things that have been around longer than any of your problems. Those are not rewards for when you finally finish everything. There is no finishing everything. You know this. You have known this for years. Those are just things you want to do, which is reason enough. You have been running this thing for 30 years without a manual, without a sponsor, and without a lot of fanfare. The world keeps expecting you to stay in the middle holding everything together. And you probably will, because that is just how you operate. Still here, still running it, still have the list. What are your personal experiences as a Gen X? Let me know in the comments. If you liked this video, hit the like and subscribe button below and check out this video next. I'll see you there.